Hey there. Welcome back to Yosefka's clinic. We haven't spoken to her in a while, so I figured we'd just stop in and say hello. You know, see how she's holding up.
Oh, hello. You're all right. Very good. He's safe with me now. I presume you're to thank? The treatment is going well. Stabilized, for the most part. Fascinating, really. Here you are, as promised.
I see she has taken in the afflicted beggar.
Oh, thank goodness you came. Be a dear. Find me some more.
That's a pretty ominous chuckle, Yosefka. If I cared more about that man that was covered in blood, I probably would question your motivations for such a chuckle. But I'll just assume that he's healing well from his being covered in blood and gore. So welcome back to Bloodborne, everybody. Today we're going to be talking to some NPCs, and then we're going to go on a little trip, you and I, to places unknown. Or maybe at least sort of known, but mostly unknown. First things first, we're going to stop and talk to our old buddy Gilbert. Now that it's nighttime, who knows? Maybe he'll be able to head to the, maybe he'll be able to head to safety. Chapel's not too far away. Gilbert, my man. I'm back.
A hunter of beasts, are you?
You're not Gilbert.
Glory be. You know not the value you possess. But more's the pity. The hours of the night are many, and the beasts more than I can count. A veritable hunt unending. Not even death offers solace, and the blood imbibes you. A most frightful fate. Oh my. But I'm willing to do you a kindness. Step lightly round to the right of the great cathedral and seek an ancient, shrouded church. The gift of the Godhead will grant you strength. Yes, I'm unquestionably certain.
You know, your voice sounds oddly familiar, like I've heard it somewhere before. Huh. Well, alright. I guess when I have a free moment, we'll receive the gift of Godhead, or whatever he said. For now, though, it's back to the forest, because there is a side path that we didn't explore. I was debating whether or not to do that first, or take care of the Shadows of Yharnam, but I figured that we probably should have made a little bit of plot progress in the last episode, after fucking around with optional areas for like half of the Let's Play so far. So, I figured we'd take care of some plot stuff. But now it's time to do more exploring. Like I mentioned in the bonus feature for I think the last episode, there are like 4 or 5 different optional areas that you can visit at this point in the game. And right now we are headed towards the second to last one. We'll cover the last one a little bit later. Something about receiving the gift of Godhead and all that stuff. I don't want to think about that. Makes my brain hurt. Hello.
Oh, Evans, would you stop that? Everything you make brings us bad luck. I have it bad enough already. Please. Just please. Poor.
Okay. So the reason we didn't meet Gilbert at that window is because once you enter the forest for the first time, the next window or door that you talk to will be replaced by that strange fellow who gave us that tonsil stone. I assume it's not a tonsil stone from his mouth, I assume it's just metaphorically a tonsil stone for reasons that we may or may not discuss later. But yeah, we'll get our chance to talk to Gilbert later when he has come back to speak to us again. For the moment, it's time for new clothes. Emperor Jill's New Duds, I believe is the title of the old story. It's the white church garb. We haven't met Yosefka yet, but these are the clothes that she's wearing. Of course, this is not just any doctor's clothes. These are the official, quote-unquote, doctor garb for the healing church workers. The black church set that we picked up earlier is just for practitioners of the church. The white church garb is what you wear if you actually are a doctor of the church, administering the healing blood to people and all that stuff. Speaking of the healing blood, check out this giant lake of mercury. You know how I know it's mercury? Because if we step in it, it'll poison us. It's really eerie in a way. Like this area, like this little cave here, full of these giants just shambling around. It's very like weirdly serene in a way, especially with the lights shining in through the ceiling of the cave. So these giants, they'll mostly leave you alone. Oh god, the worms won't, but the giants they'll keep to themselves if you don't bother them. And it's actually a good idea not to bother them because they do a lot of damage. They get very aggressive if you disturb them. Poison honestly isn't too bad in this game, and plus I'm carrying around I think like 10 antidotes, so like I probably could just walk through the poison and get poisoned, but you know, it's fun to play it safe, or at least try. Well, hey, we were just here. I mean, sorta. We were on the other side of this gate. This gate, which we can now open. Which means that we are standing right outside of Yosefka's clinic. Man, this is probably the longest loop back in Souls game history. We have traveled pretty much half of the game world to get to the other side of this locked gate. Like, think about where we have gone. We went all the way over to another town, we went deep into a forest, went through a cave and like an underground dungeon, climbed up a giant pile of corpses and some really thematic sounding ladders, just to get to the other side of a building. Well, on the bright side, I guess this means that we can say hello to Yosefka. More coffins. Oh, great. And a sucky guy. Not today. These guys are not going to be a problem anymore, because they are extremely weak to lightning, and I've got the Tonitrus. No, I'm not going to play Snake Eater again. What, you thought I was going to repeat that joke a third time? No. See, I'm an original Let's Player. I never repeat jokes. And you know what I never do either? I never repeat jokes. Honestly, Yosefka should thank me for taking care of the bird problem. I mean, I assume it's a problem. These things are called carrion crows, so Unless she's dumping deceased patients on the roof, I have a feeling they're pretty hungry. Well, hey. Welcome back to the beginning of Bloodborne, everybody. Welcome to Yosefka's clinic. I don't like that we got insight for coming in here. That makes me a little bit nervous. It's also very dark in here. It really needs some more chandeliers. But alright, let's go and say hello to Yosefka. What's up, Doc? Oh. Well, you don't look how I imagined you'd look. A little bit blobbier than I thought you would be. I'm just gonna let you be, Yosefka. I'll just kinda... No? Okay, I have a feeling you're not supposed to be that way. Oh no, Yosefka! Oh no! Thanks, I guess. You know, you're a lot less friendly in person. So, Yosefka, blobby blue lady that she is, doesn't attack you until you go in front of her. She's pretty much non-hostile. Oh. Hey, there's another one. He's standing in a pretty familiar pose. Now, wait a minute. Wasn't the afflicted beggar standing like that? Oh. Huh. Well, that doesn't bode well. Whoa, that one on the table has a human hand and a human leg. What? Wait a minute. Communion. Alright, I would like to leave now. I'm not really a fan of this place anymore. I don't know, something about it just gives me the creeps. The heebie-jeebies. The spooks.
Moonlit sense.
What?
How did you worm your way in here? Very unfortunate. I had such high hopes for you. Well, I won't make any excuses. Would you mind leaving us alone? Things need not change. You'll do the rescuing, and I'll do the saving. But if you refuse to leave... Oh well. I've always wanted to try my hand on a hunter.
Huh. Okay, alright. Let's just get the hell out of here. So, it seems that at some point Yosefka was replaced by some sort of imposter. And I unwittingly delivered the afflicted beggar right into her arms so that he could be turned into a blobby blue alien just like the real Yosefka. Alrighty then. Let's forget that this ever happened and get back on the road. Welcome back to Hemwick, everybody. We picked up a summons for a place called Canehurst that was sitting on the table where we woke up at the start of the game. According to the description of the Canehurst summons, it is addressed to us for some strange reason. And it specifically says you, as in the word you, as in your character. Like, it doesn't say, like, it's addressed to the hunter. No, it specifically says to you, as in to Jill. Very, very odd. But anyway, we've actually seen Canehurst before. This Canehurst place. We have taken a look at it from afar, off in the distance. You may recall that castle that I looked at off the coast of Hemwick. Well, that's Canehurst, and you may also recall that our friend Alfred was seeking the place out. Well, now we have an inn. We can't give him our invitation, but hey, who knows? Maybe we'll find a spare while we're there that we can give to him, and then we can pal around there together. So that's where we're going today. We're going to spend the rest of this episode dinking around at Canehurst Castle. Because, I don't know. We're not doing anything important right now. Just took care of the Shadows of Yharnam on the way to Bergenworth, but we're not there yet. And, I feel quite liberated for not having walked into Bergenworth, because it means I can go wherever the hell I want without proceeding with the plot of this game. Woohoo. Check out these cool horses. Look at those cool horses. So fancy. Ominous. Welcome to Forsaken Canehurst Castle, everybody. Well, thanks for the ride, horses. What? Oh! What? How long was I in that carriage? Christ! What is this, the Haunted Mansion? Ah! I'm so sorry, horse friends. Thanks for the ride, though. Man, this place is imposing. Those icicles could kill a man. And leave no evidence. Canehurst is one of my favorite of the side areas. Boy. First a carriage with no driver, and then the gate opens just for me without anybody attending it. Man. Lovely place so far. And it's cold, too. It's so cold. And that's actually one of the reasons I like Canehurst. Because, it's got a really unique, visual appearance. Canehurst is, channeling the Dark Souls 2 DLCs a little bit, where, like, Canehurst has its own little side story, like, totally separate from anything else in the game, and it feels more like a diversion than the other areas. But, like, I would say that Canehurst makes for a really good, like, ick. Canehurst makes for a really good diversion from the main plot for a little while. Oh! Oh my! Oh my! Okay, so these tick fleas, they do quite a bit of damage, and they are very aggressive. So why don't I do myself a favor and just kind of let them be? I mean, I could hang around and fight all these bajillion ticks out here, but maybe I'm just gonna not do that and push open these doors and get inside. Or maybe they'll just open for me by themselves, sure. Haunted mansion indeed. And good news, there was a sale on candles. What a mansion! Excuse me, sir. Do you happen to know the way around? No? Okay. I guess I'll just find my own way then. I hope he doesn't mind if I walk on the floor. Like, there's quite a bit to polish here. Like, this is definitely more than a one-man job. I hope they also don't mind if I raid the place. I mean, I doubt anybody else is opening these chests and taking what's inside. Like perhaps this really cool sword gun called the Rider Palash. It's a sword that transforms into a sword gun. It's really cool. It's one of the better dexterity weapons. I don't know if I like this weeping. The weeping is also very ominous. Oh! Spooky! Well, I guess now we know what the weeping was. It was ghost ladies who want to stab me to death. They're very upset for some reason. And now that I've started picking up items in this room, the room is totally full of them. It's a funny little trap, right? Because it kind of makes sense, I guess. Like, I mean, they're ghosts, so of course they would get upset if you started raiding their house. If you don't ever pick up the items in this room, the ghosts in this room don't ever show up. And oh god, like the floor cleaning dudes are like, oh god, what did you do? What have you done? They know their place. Like, even though the ghosts are ghosts, they're still servants of the castle. Look, not like half of these candles aren't even lit. They're not even taking good care of the place. Also, you can parry the ghosts. Why would you... How do you parry a ghost is what I want to know. Like, not even starting with the question of why would you parry a ghost. How do you do that? The ghosts also do a lot of damage, so you gotta be really careful. Because, like, I don't know if you noticed, but there's like 25 ghosts in this room. So, like, they walk towards you pretty slowly, but they definitely do gang up on you. The other reason that I came here now instead of later is because this is a really good place to get bloodstone chunks early on in the game. You know, this is where they have decided to start giving them to us, so we can get our chunk on and upgrade our weapons to, I think, +6 and beyond, right? I think it's +6 and beyond. So yeah, I really like the atmosphere of Cainhurst Castle. I really like how there's kind of like a color filter kind of thing on the screen. It's kind of subtle unless you look at a warm color like the red carpet, but like the whole thing has like a purplish blue, like kind of pale blue sort of tone. So like even warm colors like my health bar like appear kind of like almost like frozen, like frosted over in this area. It's a cool effect. It's really cool, and it does a lot to add to the atmosphere of this area. Also, the servants have decided they've had enough of servitude, I guess. So now they also will be attacking me. I will say one thing about Cainhurst, and it's that the enemy variety here is kind of lacking. There are only 3 enemy types in Cainhurst, none of which appear elsewhere in the game, and yeah, you're looking at them. Like, I guess they're their solution, right, to like, oh man, we designed this absolutely massive area. I'm in awe at the size of this area. Absolute map units. I guess their solution was like, just jam-pack it full of enemies. But I guess the problem, right, is that all of the nobles, all the ghosts, they all look the same. So you just get accosted by clones of the same ghost over and over again. And it kind of sticks out a little weirdly. Oh. Well, that's a pretty dress. Sure. I'll put that on. You know, we're among regality. We might as well dress the part. Like, look at all these regal people. Man. Fancy armor, too. Like, that's like something that doesn't ever show up in this game. This wall of portraits is pretty interesting because, like, most of these portraits, they don't show up anywhere else in the game. Like, these are all unique assets created for Cainhurst, and they give you a pretty good look at what the nobles looked like before this place went to shit. Now that portrait is interesting. That portrait appears to be of some kind of queen and a child of some kind, which is something to keep in mind, maybe. You know, thinking about it, this outfit does seem a little bit familiar, doesn't it? A certain friend of ours, hanging out in Cathedral Ward, wears this same dress, which, according to the description, is worn by Cainhurst nobles. Strange. Very strange. Looks like somebody went to Walmart in the midsummer and bought some statues. Oh! No, thank you. Maybe don't do that again. So these are the other enemy type of this area. It's old man gargoyles, because, I don't know, this is a horror game, I guess, so why not? The old man gargoyles like to pretend to be statues and then jump scare you. And you can, if you got a keen eye, you can spot them. But, you know, sometimes they hide pretty well. Like this guy. He's just kind of chilling out up here. So I'm going to hit him in the butt. In the most painful way possible. See you later. You get a pretty good view of Yharnam from the outside from here. We'll take a closer look in a minute, but you can see Hemwick right there, which is kind of cool. They gave Hemwick and that big building where the witches are like its own specific 3D model. So that's kind of cool. Oh, he's still here. Well, no thank you. The gargoyles are just very resistant to physical damage, so like you gotta really want it when you beat these guys up. Like they're gluttons for punishment. But if you knock them over, like their stomach area takes a lot of extra damage. And hey, look, there's Yharnam. There's the Grand Cathedral and weird. It's like there's a whole other town over there that we haven't been to yet. Huh. Strange. Or maybe we have been there, huh? Yeah. To unravel that one. Actually, you don't really need to unravel that one, I guess, because there's only like 3 places in Yharnam that we have been to. And it's not Central Yharnam, and it's not Cathedral Ward, so that only leaves one other option. That's right, it's Old Yharnam. No, it's not Old Yharnam. In fact, Old Yharnam is interestingly not there on that point of view where it kind of should be, because like you can see directly into the valley, so it should be there, but that's okay. You can't expect them to do everything, only most things. I kind of feel bad for beating up these dudes, because like if you shoot them, they fall over and look very silly. Like, it's kind of sad, actually. Like, they try so hard, but they're so short. Some people have a lot of fun with the messages in this area. Like, messages next to the statues that say, like, tight spot in front of a naked one's butt. Or, like, try rear ahead. Or something like that. Or, like, horse in front of, like, just a random one. I didn't play in online mode because, I don't know. It's, like, I was gonna play in online mode for the Let's Play, but I didn't want to get invaded. And so, like, I was like, Like, it was kind of a trade-off, right? Where, like, now we don't get to read funny messages, but also the atmosphere is better preserved by other people not interrupting my gameplay. Oh ho! That's Alfred's clothes. Huh. Well, sure, we'll put that on. Why not? And now I suppose this is a good chance for me to talk about the executioners. Now, Alfred has given us pretty much all the information we need about them so far. Oh, look at the stars, it's so pretty. Oh. Wow, there's nothing out there. It is just Yharnam and mountains. That's kind of unnerving. So Alfred has told us quite a bit about the Vile Bloods and the executioners so far, specifically his master, Ligarius, but in the next episode or so, we're going to learn quite a bit about these Vile Bloods and the executioners and their rivalry. That right there is a shortcut back to the lamp, but we don't have to go there yet because I'm still doing pretty good on blood vials. Holy crap, this is an opulent library. Giving Seath the Scaleless a run for his money, Jesus. But, yeah, we're going to learn a lot about the executioners and the Vile Bloods, and I hope you watch the bonus features that I have planned for this episode and the last one, and the next one, because there's a lot of important information in them that I can't cover because the videos aren't long enough. Oh God! Help! So if you happen to get shot by one of those arrows from the little guys, the ghosts kind of go a little bit upset at you, and things don't turn out so well for you if that happens. One thing I like about Bloodborne is just how many different dark places it goes to. So far in the game, we've had ghosts, cults, plagues, sickness and disease, sex and violence, and now we've got humans being transformed into aliens in mad science experiments. Yosefka's little side story is one of my favorites in the game. Something that may seem a bit chilling in hindsight to consider is that we've only actually spoken to Yosefka once. We've visited her door a couple of times now, but the real Yosefka only answered the first time. After that it was somebody else, somebody much more sinister. Well, now we know what happened to the real Yosefka, and it's a pretty grim fate. If you send anybody to the clinic instead of Odin Chapel, they'll end up the same way. Sending NPC after NPC here will fill the place up with these bubbly blue creatures who will, for the most part, totally ignore you, instead choosing to wander aimlessly and dumbly around. They don't think, they don't feel, and they're not even human anymore. Whatever Yosefka did to them, some crazy experiment with infected blood from the church, has made them more than human. And that might sound wrong to you. It might seem like these little blue guys are very much less than human. But consider this. The doppelganger talks about celebrations of kinship, surpassing our own stupidity as human beings and stuff like that. The most important thing about the Great Ones that we know so far is their knowledge that goes beyond our understanding, and the game's various factions' attempts to understand that insight. Yosefka's imposter wants to bridge that gap just the same as the Scholars of Bergenworth did. And to probably everyone's surprise, including her own, she seems to have been successful. She has successfully created kin, closing the gap between humans and Great Ones. Obviously, they don't make for a very good bridge, They're shambling, blue, blobby dudes that say nothing and are inherently hostile. But she's got the only evidence we've seen so far that humans ascending to the status of Great Ones is actually possible. So the question then becomes, were these science experiments actually failures? Clearly, they were morally wrong, and she tried to mislead us into sending people to their deaths. But those experiments bore fruit. The implications this has on the world of Bloodborne are huge. We now have living proof that Great Ones actually exist in some form, or at least that humans can be ascended to a higher plane of existence. Again, the little kin dudes have become more than human, and that's one of the darkest and most frightening things I personally think we've seen so far. Because think about it. If these shitty little blob guys are more than human, what could be out there that's more than them? In this episode, we picked up the Rider Palash, a dexterity weapon, one of my favorites. It is the sword gun employed by Canehurst Knights, hunters hired by the nobles to remove, shall we say, distasteful elements of their society. In other words, people that had succumbed to the beast plague. It specializes in slashy, thrusty attacks, with the transform mode being a little bit more slashy than thrusty. It's very, very good if you want to be like a defensive kind of character that hangs back and pokes at enemies from a distance. But with the transform mode, you can definitely get in and be a little bit more active. The transform mode, of course, is special because it is, like the rifle spear, one of the only trick weapons that is also a gun, with the rifle spear being based on this weapon, which I think I mentioned in the weapon demo for that one. We are finally seeing the origins of the rifle spear's ability to fire bullets. Of course, it uses a bullet, as usual, but it excels at parrying in case you want to have something other than a gun in your offhand, like a torch, or one of the flamethrowers, or even like mainlining a hunter tool instead. Interestingly, I expected that this thing would be pretty crappy at handling groups because, you know, it's got a very low range because it's not a very long weapon, but it actually does pretty well, especially with the ability to stumble enemies by firing a bullet at them. Like, you're gonna go through bullets real fast when you're using this thing, but altogether, it's a pretty useful weapon that also looks extremely cool. What a badass. In this episode, we started down the path of darkness that is Canehurst Castle. It's a very strange side story, seemingly disconnected from the main game's plot. But on closer inspection, it very well might not be. Let's start at the beginning. Originally, Canehurst was a pretty normal castle that held parties, nobles, and general celebrations of wealth. Obviously, it stood in great contrast to the much poorer city of Yharnam, and even though it sits in disrepair today, it's still pretty evident. Gold trimmings, dark rosewood, and probably a couple hundred too many statues line every corner of the place. I mentioned in an earlier bonus feature that Yharnam doesn't really have any form of government, but before the schism at Bergenworth, it did have Canehurst, and its king and queen. When Bergenworth's schism first began, everyone split off in different directions. We already know that Lawrence founded the church, Master Willem stayed at the college, and one other we haven't met yet set off in their own direction. But there was a fourth party that took part in the schism, a student that betrayed his fellow scholars and brought some of the healing blood to Canehurst. What we can assume is that he sought their favor and protection, as Canehurst's people were already blood drinkers and infusers long before the church arrived. They believed blood to be healthy and life-giving, even after being sucked out of someone else. I'm sure the comparisons to vampires are not lost on you, the viewer. In contrast with Hemwick, which was able to completely keep out the beast plague, Canehurst was infected from the inside and it was isolated there. They employed knights, special hunters of their own, to deal with the beasts that cropped up due to their own imbibing of the tainted blood. Eventually, the church found out about this impurity because there's no way they could have kept it a secret forever. By that point, they'd set up shop in Cathedral Ward, and had such power over Yarnum's citizens that they were able to completely decry the Canehurst inhabitants, stripping them of their nobility and prestige pretty much instantly. Obviously, they didn't take too kindly to this news, and became sworn enemies of the church from that point forward. But the church had an ace up their sleeve. In the early days of their rise to power, one of the very first groups of hunters was a band known as the Executioners. Led by a man known only as Master Logarius, they were the first of the church's hunters to operate in the open instead of in secret. They became so well known to members of the church that the traditional church garb changed to reflect theirs, and in the game you can see this in many places, from the heavy scarves to the long flowing cloaks they have in common. The Executioners were, of course, not fans of the Canehurst nobles, now deemed vile bloods for tainting their entire bloodline with the beast plague. It was, of course, a huge cover-up by the church. The blood used by the nobles and the blood passed around to Yardum's citizens are one and the same. Regardless, it had different effects on the people of Canehurst for reasons we'll get into in the next episode. For now, just know that the beast plague doesn't necessarily always turn you into a beast. It only does that if you are a common person. And the Canehurst nobles were definitely not common people. So, the Executioners were obsessed with purging the impure under the church's new rule. And the vile bloods were about as impure as it got. So, they stormed the castle with the intent to rid the world of both the beasts and the remnants of the Canehurst line. They would empty the place out of living creatures entirely, in the process protecting the church's secrets and removing a wart on their newly gained power over Yarnum. But Master Logarius would soon discover that it wouldn't be nearly that easy. In the next episode, we'll find out the other half of the story.